Okay, calling to order at 7:15 p.m. the Northborough School Committee Operational Budget Subcommittee Joint Special Open Meeting. This is a virtual Zoom meeting pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025. And we now have our first agenda item of MSBA Accelerated Repair Project.
Sure. So I'll turn it over to Keith for an introduction, and I'll also promote our two guests this evening who will share more information about the project. So just give me 1 minute.
For a second there, I thought I missed audience sharing.
No, Tom, do you see, hi, Tom, is Steve there by any chance, Watchhorn?
Steve will be joining us, but I haven't seen him.
Yeah, no, okay.
We have Raymond Design Associates.
That would be it. Yep.
Yeah, I think I just tried to promote him.
He might not be ready yet.
Declined. Okay.
Declined. All right.
We also have Mark as a guest.
And Mark, yes. Can you promote Mark? That'd be great. It should be Steve, Mark. Tom, is James joining us tonight, or is it just you?
I believe James is joining.
He just arrived.
Yeah, Mariano.
Declined.
Okay. False alarm.
Nobody
All right.
wants to come to this meeting tonight.
Well, they're going to see how the start of it goes, and then they might change their mind. I think that's what the deal is. So, well, thank you, the committee, for this up. Oh, they're together. See, it's a dual. The dual. Is that a dual screen, or are you guys actually together? So this is great. Well, I want to thank the committee for this opportunity, and I also want to thank our guest this evening. Tom Ellis has been our owner project manager. He is with Jones Lang LaSalle Americas, OPM. And James Mariano, his assistant that is declined the invite tonight. And then we also have Mark Coughlin with Steve Watchhorn. They're from Raymond Design Associates, and they are the architects for the Z Roof project. So we have been working with this team since June of last year, when MSBA gave us this assignment for the accelerated repair. Very collaborative, a lot of great conversations, looking at current conditions, and then looking at different options for the Z roof. And tonight they're going to be presenting a very high level overview of what the plans are for the Z school, and also getting down to what the cost estimates are working out to be. And then we'll talk a lot more about that and what it means when we get to that point of the presentation. Tom, are you going to be presenting this evening?
Yes, I can. I can start it off.
Okay, great.
So I've got
Becky will share the screen for you, Tom.
Okay. I made one update on the document, but that was just the north arrow that Mark added later, so that's fine.
I see.
Okay. So good. Well, welcome. Nice to meet all of you. Today we're just going to, as Keith said, give you a high-level overview of the project. I don't know. You go to the first page.
Yeah, Becky, this is the second page. Yep, there we go.
No, go back farther.
One more up.
There you go. Okay. Okay. So, like I said, today we've got the design team with us to give you a high-level overview of kind of the overall project. Most of you are familiar with the buildings, but I don't know if you've seen kind of the overall massing of the roof areas, the flat roofs versus the pitch roofs, whatnot. You can kind of see the ballasted roof level, and it's kind of this displacement of a lot of the ballast over the project due to the drainage. So we'll go to the next picture. And you can kind of see some of these lower level roofs have definitely some pitch problems, and which will be improved right now. I'll let Steve and Mark talk a little bit more about the technical piece of it, but in overview, the goal was to improve the pitching by adding some crickets and whatnot around here so that the drains work better. But you can see how the water ponds in the middle of that roof. So a lot of this is trying to improve the um, roof performance. And there's a lot of different ways of doing that. Excuse me here. I don't know if you can hear somebody's printer. My wife's printing something. Sorry. Multiple offices going at the same time. So anyway, so if we go to the next roof plan, I'll let Steve and Mark maybe kind of give you an overview of kind of what's happening. This is the existing roof plan, and maybe we can blow that up a little bit too, as they talk about the different sections. So.
Yeah, I guess. Thank you, everyone. Steve Watchman here. I'm going to let Mark talk a little bit more about the technical aspects and definitely answer questions that you may have tonight. Can everyone hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So what you're looking at right here is the roof plan. Towards the bottom of the page, the flat roofs to the left and right along the bottom are the original school. In the 90s, there was an addition which added the section in the back and the gabled roofs, which you can see hatched. As part of our analysis, we did several site visits to look at the condition of the roof. We performed a nuclear moisture survey to detect any moisture that was in the roof system. We've observed the ballast that's on the roof. In several locations have actually, the ballast has spalled and created puncture points within the membrane system. And on some of those previous aerial photographs, you can see there were asphalt shingle blow-offs. The roof system has reached the end of its useful service life, and it's the right time to look at a roof replacement. As part of the MSBA accelerated repair project, we're looking at a couple of other things that go along with the roof replacement, and that's looking at the mechanical systems that are on the roof that might be impacted, looking at the flashing heights around the perimeter of the roof and where there's a roof to wall intersection. And then the MSBA also wants us to look at sustainability. So we're looking at increased thermal performance and the ability for this roof to handle a solar, PV project in the future. So that's a big overview, and I'll let Mark talk about some of our recommendations.
Good evening. My name is Mark Coughlin. So essentially we have two types of roofs. There's the flat roofs and then there's the slope roofs. The flat roofs are a stone ballasted EPDM membrane roof. The stone ballast is there to lay over the loose laid membrane to keep it in place. And below that is a 3 inches of insulation over a vapor barrier over concrete and metal decking. On the slope roofs, you have asphalt shingles over an underlayment over a 3-inch ventilated roof deck that has a plywood sheathing on that, and that's attached to the metal deck. Both of the roofs were installed in 1997. The flat EPDM roof typically has a lifespan of about 17 to 20 years, and asphalt shingle about 25 to 30 years. We're now in our 28th year of the roof. We looked at 3 different approaches for the roof. For MSBA requirement, the most expensive is a full replacement, and that is to remove all the ballast, all the membrane, all the insulation and vapor barrier down to the decking and replace with new. In doing so, you got to meet the new energy code, which would require an R30 in the roof minimum. The second is a roof recover system, and that's the one we're proposing here. And that is to remove all the stone ballast, keep the membrane insulation and vapor barrier in place, and then go over, this is a flat roof, then go over with a cover board, mechanically fasten that through down to the metal deck, and then go over with a fully adhered 60 mil EPDM roof, and that should get you a 20-year warranty out of that. For the slope roofs, we're looking at replacing that with an asphalt shingle Class A which you can get a 40-year warranty out of that. But it typically comes with a startup warranty of 10 years, and then it starts to get prorated after that. Labor and material will be covered on that roof for, all labor and materials covered for 2 years. And then that also gets you can buy into the warranties, programs for them. And they have different levels of warranties. And, in terms of bidding, you limit the pool, because once you get into, say, the 25-year warranties, you're into their licensed and certified by the roofing manufacturer. And then to get it PV solar ready, because we're removing so much stone ballast, the weight of the proposed or the new PV panels isn't an issue. On the slope roof, we looked into that. We'll be adding an additional plywood sheathing, so that when the panels do get installed, they have something to grip onto. And what we're proposing is to go, back with the asphalt shingle roof. We did look at several other alternative roofs, but we think this one is probably the best bang for the buck. The third option is a roof restoration. That would be to put some liquid coating over the existing roof, but that doesn't really, this roof doesn't qualify for that because it's a loose slate system. We'd have to go mechanically fasten everything down anyway, so we're back to the recover process.
And I guess I do want to just highlight that from the nuclear survey, is really only 5 to 10% of that flat roof area that is wet. Any wet insulation has to be removed, and we would remove those wet areas as part of this project and replace it in kind. So it's a pretty straightforward roof replacement project. The other thing we have to look at here is the cost of this project in comparison to the assessed value of the building. There are certain code thresholds that we trip, one of which is the making sure the entire building is compliant with the accessibility regulations, the state MAAB regulations. So on the next slide, we've gone through the school and we've looked at all of the different elements that don't quite meet the current code. And we've included this scope, which is listed here in the project, because we have to. I'm not sure if there's any discussion. That we wanted to keep this pretty brief and then leave time to, answer questions if.
Yeah. James and I kind of tried to outline just the general nature of the accessibility upgrades that would be required. So I don't know if there are any initial questions, but
the initial question, sorry guys, I'll start. The initial question is, you're saying any replacement of the roof incurs these upgrades?
Yes, the threshold is $500,000. That's an all-in where the entire building has to be brought up to MAAB, which is the accessibility code in Massachusetts.
Right, so the next delivery was you're going to be above that.
That's correct, no matter which system.
That's what I'm looking for. Any other questions sorry, I've got a couple.
We have
Joan.
We have Joan and Kelly. Kelly was first and then Joan.
Kelly first, please.
Yeah, so I had two questions. One, what's the price difference between the full roof, which you said was the most expensive, and the recommended one, which is the roof recovery? What's the prices of both options? That's my first question.
It's probably between 1.4 and $2 million.
Difference?
Yes. If we were to go with the full replacement and bring up the insulation and all that to meet the energy code, we're gonna add about 10 inches of depth to the roof. And that's going to affect all the perimeter of there's a lot of brick and masonry work above that has through wall flashing. We'll have to remove 4 courses of brick and then reinstall all the flashing at that point. So if we do a full recover, the only real drawback is that difference in the thermal properties of the insulation.
Okay, so then my second question is the way that we do our buildings and we push our buildings to their limits and like beyond their life expectancy of our buildings in Northborough, wouldn't it make more sense to kind of just suck it up and do the full now, knowing that we are going to use it with the longevity of it versus just doing the recovery that's not going to last as long?
I don't think that's a question that we necessarily can answer for
Yeah,
you.
so I can answer that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Kelly, the building was renovated in 1997. So that will be 30 years coming up next year. So the useful age, kind of a age of a building is usually 60 years at most with proper maintenance. So we're looking at, in the next 25 years, some type of modernization or upgrade of that building, which at that time would include probably a reconfiguration, and a new roof.
But do you think that, I know we say 25 years, but look where we are with Peasley's situation, and do you know what I mean? Like,
Well,
I'm just,
Peasley has had a new roof, right?
yeah.
So
No, I'm just thinking like, no, not the roof. I'm just saying like,
yeah.
realistically, renovation of that building isn't going to happen in 25 years.
Well, I think
Unless
it
we
is. I
hit
mean,
like the mega
I don't think
number.
we're going to have a choice. We're going to have to modernize the HVAC
Okay,
system, the windows,
okay,
the overall function. If you think about the roof at Lincoln, I mean, at Peasley right now, so that is a metal roof. And now we're in the process of a project. So that roof is a 50-year roof. The metal roof portions, we're not going to get the lifespan out of it because, again, most likely we're going to be doing some type of project at Peasley with the MSBA.
okay.
Do you have any follow-up, Kelly?
Not for now, thanks.
Okay. Joan?
Thank you. On the slide that you're showing right now on these upgrades, I know you cannot give it to me now, but could you do more of a detailed, for example, on the exterior curbing? Is that all the exterior curbing? When you talk about the exterior steps modifications, is that only one or how many doors is that? Concrete pads at exit doors, how many? If you look at 3 locations of the exit door replacement, how many is that? 3 out of 5, 3 out of 6, or is that all of them? So I'd like to know, in classroom doors, there's 12. Okay, 12 out of how many is this giving us?
I
Okay,
can address that.
okay,
So as far as the exterior curbing improvement, this only happens at the main entrance to the building. It's basically a curb cut into the existing bituminous concrete walk. You need to maintain a 2.5% slope along the path of travel.
So that's just
at
at the
one
main
location.
entrance.
That's
Yeah.
just at the main entrance,
main
in
entrance,
front of
okay.
the accessible spaces. The exterior step modification, there are 4 locations, and that's basically these are concrete platforms that are outside of the exterior doors on the newer part of the addition, which was compliant when it was built. We did have MAAB in 97. What happened is over the years, frost upheaval lifted it beyond the half-inch threshold required. You can't exceed a half-inch as you transition into a building. So there are 4 locations of that. It's basically just recasting a platform. The exterior, I'm sorry, that was at the exterior concrete pads. The exterior step modifications happen in 3 locations of the existing portion of the building. As you drive up, you'll see off to the left and the right, they have the railings and a platform and then some stairs that need to be improved. There's a pair of exterior doors there, and you need to, by code, have an area of refuge from, it needs to be able to accommodate 2 wheelchairs. And currently we can't do that So we're gonna have to modify one of the railings on the platform and then take those exterior doors, which are currently a pair of doors, and make one larger, and then another one's gonna be an inactive leaf. It's a smaller one, and that will allow a wheelchair to, if you're in a wheelchair, you can go out and park 2 wheelchairs on that platform. So that happens at 3 locations. Interior classroom doors, these are 12 classrooms in the original part of the building, the 1950s. They currently don't offer the 18 inches in the pull side of the door required by code. So what we're proposing is to re-swing the doors so they swing in, where you can get the 18 inches on the pull side, and that would satisfy that. Sink modifications. This is in every classroom. None of them allow access for a person in a wheelchair. So we're gonna have to remove a base cabinet and reset a sink, maybe even modify the casework in that area. Replace toilet seats in the stalls. This happens in 3 locations. In the girls' room, the accessible stall, that's the one that needs the most. That has the oh, I'm sorry. This happens at in the nursery, not the nursery, the kindergarten classes. They have adult toilets in there, and they're not supposed to exceed 15 inches in height. So that's a full replacement of the toilet fixture.
So I think to answer your question, it's, most of these, except for the sink modifications, these are not throughout the entire building. There's just a few instances here and there.
Okay, I have a follow-up question on the interior classroom doors. You're saying that those are, when you approach that door, you're going to push it into the classroom. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Why? For safety, because I'm going from my experience when we had Alice drills. They had said to us in my former location where I taught, is that was more of a hindrance that they went inside, because you had to pile a lot of furniture if you had an inside intruder, because that person could push that door in. Could we have those doors so that you pull them out as you enter, or would we not get the clearance?
You could, but you'd have to do some serious modifications to the entrance to the door. It's a glazed block wall. Would have to enlarge that opening to accommodate the additional, I think we need 12 more inches.
And
Okay.
that option was not priced. It is
Yes.
possible, but it's much more intrusive.
Okay. My question is, if you're going to have you want the roof to be solar ready, do we have, and this might be for the administration, do we have a date when we want to put on our capital plan when we're thinking of putting solar on there? Because if the asphalt shingles are only for a 10-year warranty, when are we going to have those solar panels put on within that 10-year period?
Greg, do you want me to talk about Select's plan?
Sure.
So, Joan, we have been in discussion with our solar provider, Select Energy, which is the one that's done the work at Algonquin, Proctor, and Lincoln Street. They've looked at Z. They've also looked at the project that we're proposing. They are able to go into a PPA, the power purchase agreement with us, as we have done on those other roofing systems. So it wouldn't necessarily be a out-of-pocket capital. It would be built over the 20-year duration. The other thing we've done with our last solar system at Algonquin is make sure that we include a roof replacement in that 20-year, which is typical. It's a 20-year PPA. So we build that in to make sure that that was not going to be an out-of-pocket cost to do any work related to peeling off and putting back on the solar panels. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but yes, it does. Thank you for the description of that and the detail. But do we have an idea where we have in the capital plan, because I don't have it before me now, where we would want to do that solar, or what fiscal year do we want to do that? Is it within the 10 years?
Absolutely. Yes.
It is.
Yep.
Okay.
But
And
that's not an out of cost
Right.
expense
It
though,
wouldn't be
right,
on the
John?
capital plan.
No, all that is we just need town approval on it.
Right.
But
Right.
it's not a money thing for us.
Right. Well, if this solar project wouldn't be done with that within that 10-year warranty, I would not want to put solar on when we would have to then have a capital cost of asphalt tiles. Let's say we put the solar on year 12 and something happens. Now we have to take the solar off and take care of the asphalt. That was my question. I wanted,
Okay. No, we would make sure that we are taking care of the solar within the next 24 months would be my estimate.
okay, and then my last question is, have we thought of doing, and why could not any of this roof be done with steel roofing? Like we have at Peasley. Metal roofing.
The metal roofing?
Yeah.
Mark, do you want to take that or do you want me to?
Sure, you can take it. We did look at metal roofing for this
Yes.
project, and it's basically, it is a 50-year roof. I do want to clarify the asphalt shingle. The 10-year warranty is really just built in with the labor, but the material is, it's a limited lifetime, but it has all the fine print. It's a prorated, and it's a 40-year material roof, but the cost of the metal roof is about twice as much.
Okay. Yeah, because I've gone through a couple warranties where things are prorated. I like to get it done when it's not prorated and it's not my cost. Thank you very much. So
In roofing warranties, they have a saying, the big print giveth and the small print taken away.
yeah. Okay, so the metal roofing, Keith, you were saying it's 50-year warranty on that, but why was it too expensive to do metal roofing?
Twice as much.
Double the cost.
Thank you. That answers that one very well. Thank you for all the answers to my questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Joan. Maybe we're on to the Kristen.
Sorry if I missed this before. I just want is there an estimate or a price on these roofs? I know you said there's $1.5 to $2 million difference between the full roof and the replacement when Kelly was asking her question. And then, that the metal roof is twice as much, but do we have an actual ballpark number or an estimate at this point for the roof recovery of asphalt, which is, I believe, if I understood correctly, what you're suggesting, right?
I was going to ask if that was on the next slide.
You got it. There's a drum roll in effect right now. Mark was hoping for a drum roll before we got to the final slide. Yes, Kristen. So what we're going to price out on the next slide, and Becky, when you have a second, if you could do that, that'd be great. This kind of irons out. This is the cost estimate that has been put together and reviewed, and is the one that we're working from and the latest. And when we were talking about the metal roof, it was significantly greater than this. So, Tom, are you able to walk through this cost estimate, what it means, so the committee can understand the detail?
Sure. Yeah, this is a snapshot of the way the MSBA puts together their budgets and their cost. We have soft costs, which is all the OPM, architecture, engineering, owner cost, to both do the feasibility study and do the design development, construction documents, and construction administration as well. Then the construction cost is the hard trade cost for the roofing contractor, which would be a general contractor with a majority of the roof being done as most of this cost, but it would have other things in there, include ADA upgrades in that as well. So that's the trade cost, but it would include the general conditions, insurance, overhead and profit for the contractor. That would be just 6.9 million total. Then we've included contingencies, owner contingencies, as well as construction contingencies. The MSBA allows reimbursement for percentages of that, 5% of the construction and 0.5 of 1% for the owner contingency for things that are deemed eligible. So, but this gives you some flexibility to anticipate maybe changes in the field that may be unforeseen at this point. Then, so then when you add all those up, the MSBA takes a look at the reimbursement rate that your community has, which is 48.68. Again, we have not had a review with them yet, and these numbers tend to fluctuate a little bit with the MSBA on the how they have some caps on eligible cost and whatnot, 20% for total soft cost, and others. And then if they have certain things in there that they believe are not relevant to just a typical project, like if you had a lot of copper flashing, they won't replace copper flashing. They want you to use economical buildings, but as you get to older buildings, you may have historical requirements that would require you to do that. They won't participate in that. So at this point, they pretty much take a maximum facilities grant approach, meaning of the eligible cost, they'll pay 48.68%, and that's the maximum they will do no matter what the bid comes in. Let's say right now we have an estimated bid price of 5.7 million. That's their facilities reimbursement is based upon that amount. If it comes in higher after the project funding agreement is in place, the community owns the delta. If it's less than that, then they will prorate their share of the savings and take that out. So when they say this is a maximum facilities grant, this is exactly what it is. It's no more than that number once they get through the assessment of the project funding agreement budget. So it will always be that number or less. So at this stage, it would indicate your total project budget is like 7.3, which would then end up saying your community is in the area of 4 million for their contribution if all contingencies are used at this point. So
Questions on that from the team?
Joan has her hand raised.
Great, Joan, I missed you there.
Okay, thank you, Bryce. Is this cost of $7.3 million, is this lower than what we anticipated, if my memory is correct? Did we once say it would be 8 million?
Yes, Joan. So we had used our prior assessments, also talking with the team over the last few months, knew that there would be ADA improvements that would be needed. It also didn't include the engineering and other soft costs. So we were coming in right around 8 million is what we were anticipating up until the team really dove into. So they're coming in just shy of what we were anticipating.
And so the last comment that the architects made was that the community would be, that the town would be paying would be 4 million. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That is, and that was including all contingencies,
Correct.
if they were all used. So how sure are we of getting that maximum facilities grant in that amount?
Tom, do you have experience with that?
I would say there's probably no community in the Commonwealth that got the total maximum grant number all the way down to like $266. It will be something slightly less, or depending upon eligible costs, could be a little bit more. But again, there's the reimbursement rate is for the community is based upon the tax rate and everything else, but there's an effective rate depending upon eligible cost, and that can fluctuate more on new projects or on total renovation projects. On roofing projects, it doesn't tend to fluctuate significantly as compared to the bigger projects. So you're in the ballpark there. In theory, maybe let's say you could be at 46 or 45%. Again, before you get into the MSBA project funding agreement, most of the ineligible costs will be known, and then it all drives on, what happens in the environment between now when you're going to bid out the job in a year from now, or.
So could you say that we have a good chance? Right now, it's 3,368,000. I don't see the last digits. Could you say that we have a good chance of getting at least 3 million in the room?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I think that's more than reasonable. I mean, again, there's a lot of variables on that, but again, the MSBA, the way they go through their calculations, they just say at the most this project's reserved 3.368, $3,368,000. That's the most we're going to pay, and and then we'll move forward on the project. It doesn't mean that the project's going to cost more or it's going to cost less at this point. That's just kind of how they do their calculations.
So Tom, is it fair to say that the next step is really sending this to cost estimators and getting a more detailed cost estimate?
Well, we're breaking down the numbers a little bit more on this revised plan, because the estimate we got were based upon the larger scope, the complete replacement. Maybe I'll let Steve and Mark talk a little bit about the accuracy of the numbers at this stage, but we're getting close to that, because once you submit the package to the MSBA, which will be in January for the February board meeting, that's your number that you're going to hang on. But most of the cost estimators have some. They try to be somewhat conservative to be sure that you have enough cushion in it to deal with unforeseen environmental or economic issues that may come up a little bit. So there's a little bit of flexibility and float in that. But I'll let Mark and Steve talk a little bit about that from their perspective.
Yeah, Tom, that's right. We plan on sending this back off to our cost estimators to verify these numbers, but we've been in touch with them over the past several weeks or a month, coming up with what they feel are good numbers to represent tonight that are being presented here. So we've had that conversation about the cost difference between different options with our cost estimator.
Right. So we have Kristen and then Kelly.
Yep, go ahead, Kristen.
Okay, so just for the record, this is like the most cost-effective way to solve our problem, right? We're talking about a roof recovery, and this is slightly less than the other estimated ones. We went with the asphalt, and I appreciate the layout and very clear and the presentation in general. I just wanted to, basically ask that question as just to make sure I'm on the right page.
That is correct. This is the most, a recover is, the restoration, it doesn't qualify, as I mentioned, because the existing membrane is not adhered to the roof itself. So to go through that process, you're basically going to have to go through 80% of the steps to go for a recover. And you're not going to get a system as robust as the EPDM.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Kelly?
So kind of to go off of what Joan was asking and what I believe I just heard. So, we don't get the maximum, but you made some point, like, an example was you said about the copper and, if you use the copper and that doesn't qualify, I think. So on the project that we're doing, what they definitely don't do, and we're not using any of the stuff, right?
Yeah, I don't think at this stage, Mark and Steve, we're doing anything that we believe is kind of out of sync with what they would expect. I mean, it's at the end of the day, it just comes up with their formula they have soft cost caps that kind of work into the formulas of what's an ineligible part of the soft cost, and some of that may be then deemed ineligible for reimbursement. Doesn't mean that it's not needed. It's just the way they put their formulas in, so they're equitable between communities. They just say we cap soft costs at 20%, done. I don't care what your project scope is. It's like if you do a new project, they used to cap site cost at 7.5%. I don't care how big site is or how small it is. That's the cap. Just trying to be fair and equitable on all the projects. So the next step for us is to go through the full detailed budget and with a cost estimate that gets submitted to the MSBA. They'll review it. They'll sit down and say, okay, we agree with all these items. This is how we calculate it. Come back, and they may change that number slightly based upon that more detailed spreadsheet. But that will be part of the package which they would approve at the board meeting that would have the updated estimate, maximum facility grant number on it. So
the only thing I would add is, although this is a roofing project, one of the positive outcomes is the building will be more accessible And I don't think we can underestimate those types of improvements for our faculty, staff, and guests to the building. And
Yeah, I think that's a bonus.
Yep. Thank you.
looks like
Joan?
Thank you. I have a question since I was on the school committee when the town acquired Z School from the private school, and then we did the upgrades and did some additions and everything. My question is, all the things that we're doing, such as these ADA upgrades, are these new initiatives from the ADA, or are there some things that we missed? And I'll put myself on it because I was on a school committee. Were there some things that we missed that we should have done, such as the double door, the door wider to get two wheelchairs through? I know that, like, you talk about the pads outside of the doors. There's something we can do that's weather related, with the with the frost upheaval. Is there anything that we missed in the other time, or is these all due to the new upgrades? Everybody's getting upgraded cars, computers, everything. Is this just something that that we didn't miss? It's just something new that the state is requiring.
Well, it's Stephen.
I don't think so. There's been I think at the time when this building was built, there was a different version of the code in play. So I think that the building was probably compliant at the time, just from what we could tell.
And Joan, I would co-sign that. There was a modification to these codes in the like 2009, I believe. Steve, I don't know if you can correct me on that. So it seems as though that the items that we've identified are from that update to the code, which is what we're going to bring it up to with this project, if all goes well.
Okay, because I figured that would be a question that some of the citizens may ask, and so that's a great answer, knowing that it's a different version of code. And Keith, as you said, we're just bringing the code has been changed and it's been updated, and everybody understands who's building a house or an addition. So many things change, what you have to do with wiring and everything. So
And
thank
the
you.
other comment I make about ADA, and the team has reminded me of this, and Greg said it very well, is these are codes that are going to, upgrades that are going to improve access for ours, and they're also reimbursement eligible. Tom did share about the eligibility of reimbursement. So out of that total number, whatever cost that is, we will get our reimbursement on that as well, which I consider to be a good deal considering the opportunity.
I think it's a win-win situation.
Correct.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
All right, Kristen.
This might be more of a question for Keith. I don't know if you can remind me if for this roof and the others like Lincoln Street, for example, where we're putting solar on the roof, if the solar panels cause any damage to the roof, which I've read about happening to homeowners, who is responsible for that? And I can't remember from our solar discussion if that was covered or not.
It is covered. It would be handled by Select Energy.
Okay, so anything, because they're owning the panels too, right? So anything
Correct.
damage that caused, they would cover.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. No further questions. Greg, do you have anything else for us, or Keith?
No other comments. Just thank you to, folks for attending this evening and presenting this information.
Yeah, I would co-sign that. The team has been great, very collaborative, responsive, and we've met a lot in the last couple of weeks. So the way that the timeline is going to work from this point forward is we are going to get that more cost estimate detail, which hopefully will mirror what that last slide was. We have a submission date to the MSBA of January 8th. That's our deadline for that. And then we intend to be on the MSBA's Board of Directors meeting in February to get their approval of the project, which would be in line with our timeline to then hopefully bring it forward on our Northborough town meeting in late April. So the timing of this is lining up well, and I do appreciate the team for their work.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Mark. Thanks,
All
Steve.
right.
Talk to you
Okay,
soon.
nice meeting everyone.
Happy holidays.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
FY27 recommended budget review and discussion.
All right, so I'll start and then turn it over to Becky. So the revised preliminary budget was presented to the committee on December 3rd. So we've continued conversations around the recommended budget and what that would look like. So this evening, what we're hoping to accomplish is to get some direction from the school committee in terms of preparing a recommended budget and also discussing next steps. So with that said, Becky will review where we left off and talk about what we need to accomplish in terms of getting to targets, 5% and a 3%, and then we take any feedback that you have.
Okay, so I am just going to share with the committee a few of the slides that were shown at the December 3rd meeting, just as a review of where the budget is as of right now. So you'll recall that at that meeting, we did show that we are now at a 10.31% increase, which is a $3,092,738 increase over the FY26 budget. We have been working internally with the leadership team and with principals, and have continued to have conversations about some of the ways that we can make some adjustments to this budget. The cuts that were included, or rather reductions that were included in the revised preliminary, we were already looking at about $430,000 in offsets, and those were achieved through a number of different areas, mainly in reductions in elementary and middle school and some of their line items, a reconfiguration of staff through student support services. We were looking at leasing as opposed to purchasing student devices for technology, and then also looking at a reduction of some of our operations costs for buildings and grounds, but utilizing a facility rental revolving account that we have to supplement those funds. So again, the budget drivers for this, for the FY27 budget, there really are three main line items that are really impacting FY27. And those are the special education transportation, out of district tuitions, and then collaborative tuitions. And those three line items total $1,440,000. Dollars out of the 3 million in the increase that I just spoke about. If we did not have those three line items, if we took those line items out of our operational budget, all of the other line items that include salary, our other transportation line items and those type of things, that would be a $1,652,000 increase. And in order for us to get to a 3% budget, of 899,000, we would only need to find, I say only, need to find reductions of $752,000. So again, our revised preliminary budget that we presented was $33,082,680, which represented a 10.31% increase over FY26. We also had highlighted some of our thinking in terms of being able to make some reductions to this budget. If we were to look at a 5% budget increase, we would need to find line item offsets of $533,000. We would also need to look at reductions in some of our staffing and approximately 8.9 FTEs. And then one of the other areas would be using 300,000 of FY27 circuit breaker funds. This is based on some projections of what we anticipate receiving for circuit breaker in FY27. And again, those funds would not be available for use in FY28, which is what we normally do. And so those reductions would total $1,597,000. If we were to go further and create a 3% budget, we would still use that $533,000 in line item offsets. We would now be looking at approximately 14.9 FTEs reduction. And then we would also be using the circuit breaker because that we would not be altering that number because that is really all that we feel comfortable in using based on our projections. So with that scenario, we would be looking at just under a $2.2 million reduction. So I won't say this again, but just here's another slide, just reminding you of where the budget stands at this time. And I will stop sharing.
So a couple of comments.
Yeah.
First, the 9 FTE, so it's 8.9, but we'll round up to 9, is significant to get to a 5% budget. That is going to impact student experiences, programs, class size. So that is significant. To get to a 3% budget, we move to a little over 14 FTE reductions. If you think about our elementary schools and teachers, grade level teachers, that's almost a whole school of teachers. So that's the scale that we're talking about. We are not recommending making those types of reductions. I think it would be too impactful and devastating to our educational system. And what we are I'm considering, and with your support, is that the special education out of district collaborative and transportation costs is a little over $1.4 million of the increase. Those are costs that we don't control. It's not as if we could have done something different to plan better for those cost increases. They are legally required and outside of our control. One of our suggestions is to try to work closely with the town and the select board to think about, is there an appetite to use their reserve fund to help pay for those increased costs in special education for one time. And we have projected out circuit breaker for FY28, and we feel that there will be a correction in the amount of circuit breaker money we'll be receiving. So it's not as if a one-time, $1.4 million influx of funds from the town would create a structural deficit. We've projected out that not to be the case in FY28. And then, as Becky indicated, we could get to if we set that aside, we could get to a 3% by the additional reductions that would be required. And Becky, I think you said that's about $700,000.
Yeah, 750.
750. Otherwise, I think there are really no great options at this point in time. There are no places for us. We don't have stabilization funds. The money we rely upon to offset extraordinary special education costs is circuit breaker. There's a non-alignment in the costs next year and the amount of circuit breaker money we have to apply next year. So those are some comments, and would love to hear any ideas and options.
No thoughts, but I'll open it up to the committee first.
Bryce, would it be helpful if I just shared who has their hands up? Or can you see?
Oh, I can't see anybody that's flagged it, but Kelly
Kelly-
just
Kelly.
waved. Yeah.
I flagged it. I flagged it.
You just can't see it in the corner of your screen.
Oh, it maybe is it like it's colored? Okay, so a couple questions. So if we were able to work it, that we take that extra million three, did you say?
1.4.
1.4, and we take that out. Did you say we still would lose 8 FTEs? No, we wouldn't lose any.
No, we would. We would have a level services budget.
Okay,
The conversations that we're having internally are, what does a level services budget look like for
Yeah.
us? So there's still many conversations.
okay,
We might not have the same number of people, but the same level of experience for kids.
okay. So that kind of do, I know we're getting close to the retirement. Do we have more retirements than we were originally anticipating as of
So,
now, or no?
Becky,
Yeah, we do have we do have a number of retirements. Some of those have already been captured in the revised preliminary budget. So we are continuing to look at those positions as well, and those replacement costs.
Okay. And then the other thing that you mentioned was, I think, was it a reserve fund? Is that what did a stabilization fund? I know years ago they tried to do it for the high school. Northborough passed it, the region didn't, the Southborough didn't, so they couldn't do it. Can you not have it in just Northborough, K through 8? Like, could we do something like that if we wanted to create one for,
correct.
and what are your thoughts about that? Like,
So
should we start going that way, do you think?
so our recommendation is to, draft language for the town voters to vote to create a stabilization fund for the purpose of special education, for the purpose that we're in this year, that when there is a year of peaks and valleys, when we're in a valley, there is a place where we can moderate costs over a period of time.
And so the stabilization cost would be primarily just for special education, or would you have it more of a generic,
It
like?
would be just for special education.
Okay.
So the
I mean,
idea
I
would,
think it's not a bad idea, especially because the way that we have so many unknowns, you know what I mean? Like, you never really know until past
we have
October.
move-ins that are unpredictable. So we
Yeah.
have change of placement. So, a student, may require a change of placement in terms of moving to a residential program. Those are all, we try to project out placements for students. However, it's impossible to project it out at 100%. And every year, we're surprised, or a new family moves into the community who has resided outside of Massachusetts and requires a specialized placement for their kids.
Yeah. Well, it would help us too with those like transportation, special education transportation costs too, right? Something like that, we would have been able to tap into those types of things. Is this something that we're looking to get onto this April ballot?
Yeah,
This
so
April
it would be town meeting
town
approval.
meeting? Yeah,
So our thinking is, if the town, um, you know, here's where we are in terms of the school budget, and I'm not sure where the town is. I'm sure they're having a difficult budget season as well. And, decides that this is a good use of the revolving account that they have, a reserve account that they have, then the mechanism that we would need to create at the town meeting would be to create a revolving account. That'd be the first article. And then the second article would be to fund that account in the tune of 1.4 million. Is that it, Becky? And then we would then expend that for FY27 expenses.
okay.
Thank you,
you.
Kelly. Joan?
Thanks. Becky, you talked about, if you have a little more clarification on that amount of $750,000. What was that specifically? I was taking notes and missed it.
Sure. So if we were to have an alternate funding source for the 1.4 million, and we subtracted that 1.4 from the 3 million that we're talking about right now, for the overall increase over FY26, that would leave about $1.6 million. So in order to get to a 3% budget, which is about $900,000, that's what the differential is between the 3% budget and where we would need to find reductions after the removal of the 1.4. I don't know if that's clear as mud or.
I'll go over my notes later. I might send you an email.
Yeah, I can actually show you, share the,
If you bring that screen up, it'll
yeah, the
make
slide,
sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's, and I don't know if you can see my mouse here, but
Yes,
at the
yes, I can
bottom,
see it.
yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
that's where the 7.
Okay, yeah, I wrote that down. Okay, so I can go back and circle that. The other thing is, and Greg, you were saying that suggestions to work closely with the budget, and we could go to the town to use reserve funds for special ed one-time usage. What would that total be? Is that on one of the slides?
4 million.
Yeah, it's it's $1,440,265.
Okay, I thought, but I just wanted to make sure. Okay, thank you very much. End of my questions.
Thank you, John. Kristen?
So our select board liaison wanted me to tell everyone that Greg, you should be getting an invitation to the next meeting, which is January 12th, if not the one after that, but probably the January 12th to discuss this, the 1.4 million. And possibly the town taking that on. That was put on a future agenda item at their meeting last night. And they also voted unanimously to write a letter of support for the ball field there with the CP,
Good.
those funds, CPA, right, funds. So they unanimously supported that. And then I had another question, but then when our liaison started talking, went out of my head now. But yeah, so just so you know, that's their next meeting is January 12th. So you'll
So
probably
Kristen, I did talk to Stephanie Bacon today, and we were invited to the January 12th meeting, and we accepted. So we have a strategic planning session from 6:30 to 8. So we'll be on at 8:30. Well, I'll be on. I'll go in person. Becky will be on virtually. But it'd be nice to have a member or two of the
Just
committee.
gonna say, can we just get an invitation? Becky, can you just send an invitation out to us for that time and we'll just try and be there? I know I've got practice until 7, but I can be there after that.
Oh, I just remembered my other question. That
Keep going,
revolving
Kristen, keep
account
going.
that we were creating, so obviously we would use the money for this year, and then afterwards, is it being funded from the school budget in the future in little increments, or the town's, like outside the school budget, but the town's budget?
Correct. It would be funded through a line item in our school budget.
Okay, thanks.
Kelly?
Hey, Kristen, can you ask our liaison if they could put us on the early part of the January 12th meeting?
No,
And
no,
well,
no.
come on. Otherwise, we're gonna be there until like 12:30 at night.
We'll get there at 8:30.
I can't be there until 8:30.
I can't be there. I can't be there earlier either.
Okay, but can we be on at 8:30 then?
I can tell our liaison to make the request.
Thank
I will
you.
say that last night, I think their second agenda item started about 7:50 when their meeting started at 6:30.
See?
So,
That's
yeah,
why
it
I'm
was-
saying put us on the earlier side.
The recording was 4 hours and 14 minutes when I looked back, and that was before they went into an executive session, which they did afterwards. So
Gross. Okay, so
And
so if anybody doesn't have any other questions, since we're being invited on January 12th to discuss this, that would signal to me that there is some interest in potentially being of assistance. Is that just the anecdote that we're receiving tonight, Greg, or is that the sense you got from Stephanie?
No, I don't have an indication of what position the board would take. I think it's positive that we were invited to talk about our school budget and where it stands and the challenges we're facing. I think at last night's meeting, I believe the town administrator acknowledged the rising costs in special education that we're seeing. It also dovetailed in our legislative priorities around full circuit breaker reimbursement and some other special education initiatives. The challenge the question that we have for the committee is our next school committee meeting is January 5th, 6th, 7th, January 7th. Which means that we were planning on presenting a recommended budget at that time. I don't think we'll be ready to,
Oh.
because I think it's important to get a sense from the boards and committees if this is something they would support. If they don't support it, then we have to go back to the drawing board and really sharpen our pencils.
Yeah, and I mean, unless you feel like a public announcement of that prior to the January 12th select board meeting would generate community attendance in support, then I would say do it. But otherwise, I think you could just freak people out.
Yeah, I think kind of reviewing the revised preliminary budget and talking about some of the increased costs in special education, and talking about the why is important. I think one of the fears we have is we do not want to cause unnecessary alarm in employees or families, and B, this is not a special education issue. Like this is
I
not
don't want to drill it in as
this is-
that. No.
Yeah, this is so, although this is one way to solve this, this is really educational obligation that we have to all students. And in this particular case of the budget, our special education costs are increasing. So we're trying to be sensitive to both of those.
Okay, so then the mechanism or the kind of A to B to C is the draft of this warrant article that would create this stabilization special education spending fund.
Yep.
Okay, then the warrant article would be to fund it to the tune of $1.4 million for use in FY 26 or
Mhm.
27, sorry.
Yep.
With then a repetitive funding cycle built into the operating expense FY 28 moving forward.
Correct.
Okay, so you gave us a brief snapshot then of about $550,000 that was going to come out of curriculum and science tools and some other items, tech. And then there was the 300,000 of the future circuit breaker. You're already above the 750 there, but there was another line item because the part that I'm worried about is trying to leverage next year while we're leveraged. So if there's any way to then not be using FY 28 circuit breaker funds,
So we
Yes.
would, we would not recommend using FY 27 circuit breaker and FY 27 only if there are no options.
It's great. As long as I think we can, I don't know,
I do
yeah.
think, Bryce, I do think on January 7th, we can talk about what the additional reductions to get to that, the 700 plus thousand to get to a 3% if those special education costs weren't there. We can present that to the committee.
Yeah, because that feels attainable, right?
Yeah.
Like that feels like somebody could be like, oh, right, it's not special education isn't the problem, but there is just this one kind of situation that we could resolve. And otherwise, they're doing all the right stuff, and we're going to move forward with a clean 3% level services budget.
And we did
so-
last year. So last year we got to was it 2.99?
I think it was that. Yeah. And it's like that, there's just no way anybody can say you're not trying to do the right thing there. Sorry, Kristen, did we hear back from the liaison?
No, should I ask him questions? Actually, you just reminded me something I told our liaison to when they were going to bring this up is it might help us to go back and look at what our percent increases were and maybe ask somebody what the percent increases were of other departments, because one of the conversations I had with our liaison was, we were at 2.99% last year. Other departments were not for various reasons or whatever, but and historically we have been very good, and by we I mean pretty much you guys in the front office and us approving it, or me. I don't feel like I do a heavy lift on this, but have been very conscientious of our costs. So as to Bryce's point just now, it's not that you're not doing all the right things. This was out of your control. It's out of everyone's control, so it's a one-time thing. But that was something that I had said might make a good comparison to just kind
We
of show the
definitely-
numbers and be like, we've been under 3% or close as,
Mhm.
even through the pandemic. We were
Yeah,
not
but they
nearly
were
where
what?
inflation was,
Well, what about
Sorry,
the,
Bryce, was that?
what about the other things like Assabet Valley? They were at what, 24%? Something like that.
Right.
I know we're dealing with like, ours are millions, there's 100,000, but still, like, I mean, it doesn't seem fair that their numbers keep
I guess.
getting up and
Hold
they're
on.
not held accountable for
Their
it.
percents, yeah, that came up at last night's meeting too, because I guess their enrollment is down. And so there was questions from the board, the select board, about, well, if we're saving, I think it was about 400,000 from Assabet Valley, then can we apply that, for K-8 or the region? And I wasn't sure that that was true. And maybe Greg, you can answer this question, because if we have decreased enrollment in Assabet, well, then don't we have increased enrollment at Algonquin? Like this, is it
Yeah,
just a
so-
decrease in students, or are they just moving, I guess is the question.
Yeah, so I think when the town of Northborough thinks of its educational budget, it's pre-K through 8, and then it's Algonquin assessment. So we are also having, going through the process of presenting, a revised preliminary budget to the regional school committee. So I think until we know that the $400,000 savings or unanticipated decrease could offset Algonquin's budget.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I guess I was just wondering when I heard that, I'm like, but is it a savings, or does it just mean they
Yeah.
move somewhere else?
It-
But I don't know.
Point.
Yeah.
Could
Okay,
have graduated.
so,
They might have graduated, maybe.
so, we should have on the future agenda, or we should have on the agenda then, you guys doing that breakdown for everybody.
Yep.
Anything else that you guys, I can't see if Joan fell off or if she's still on here, but anything
She
else?
had to jump off. She wanted me to let you know that she had another meeting to attend to.
Yeah, she said 6:17 for the record, but I think it was 8:17 because there's a time difference.
So
Yes,
can I summarize, Bryce, what we
Please.
need to prepare?
please.
So I think we'll prepare an article for Special Education Stabilization Fund and provide some information about what the language is and what the law states. We'll also provide a projection of our FY27 circuit breaker that we anticipate receiving that we'll use in FY28. And in that way, again, we're showing that this is not a structural deficit we're creating, doing a one-time offset. We also can prepare what we'll present to the select board on the 12th and present that to the committee first. So you have an idea of what we're presenting. And that will include information about circuit breaker and special education costs. We'll also, in the presentation, present the additional $700 plus thousand in reductions to get to that quote unquote 3%. And we'll do a historical overview of where our budgets, our budget increases have been. And I know in past presentations, we also showed, where our budgets have, what percent they've increased compared to inflation. So we can present that information as well on the 7th.
Sounds good. Any other questions from the team? Okay, I will, if there's nothing else, Becky or Keith or Greg, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Thank you, guys. It's a lot of work. It's daunting, but thank you. So I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Second.
By Kristen, second by Kelly. We are officially adjourned at
Do we have to do
8:29
a roll
p.m.
call vote or no?
We do.
Okay,
If it's virtual.
Kristen,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Bryce is a yes, and we're still adjourned at 8:29 p.m.